Hey there, fellow travelers. Thanks for joining me here on the Dirt Road Tourist. This week has been a slow one where overlanding is concerned, but it was a big week for the rig. The new OVS Bed Cap is now installed. I'm going to be talking more about that and some upcoming trip plans, so stick around. Hello and welcome. My wife Susan and I, we're on a mission to explore the byways of this country to find the food, the people, and even the odd stuff. We're exploring where the roads lead after you leave the interstates behind, and beyond where the roads end. Whether you're thinking about getting started overlanding or rocking a fully built rig, I'll be talking about the places we go and giving tips to make your journeys go smoother. And it all starts now on this episode of the Dirt Road Tourist. So last week I talked about pulling the trigger on some new upgrades for our Tacoma, namely an Overland Vehicle Systems Expedition Cap and an Open Road 270 awning. One of those two is installed as I record this on Sunday afternoon. It feels like anytime I make a major purchase of equipment for the rig lately, I get plunged into this weird post-COVID supply chain experience, and this one has been no different. I never seem to be able to see Product X online, just order it and just have it shipped to me. The 270 awning was straightforward, and I got that within 3 days of my order, but the bed cap and more crucially, the crossbars have been a bit more of a, well, let's just say adventure. So I ordered the bed cap and crossbars through Recon Recovery, and they were able to ship out the bed cap right away, just not with the roof panel. They said that the roof panel was damaged in transit to them, and they would arrange to have one shipped out to me separately, which they did quickly. I was able to get the sidewalls of the bed cap unpacked and assembled, so all I had to do was wait for the roof panel to finish it up. And I had some of the guys from work coming over yesterday to help lift the cap onto the truck, and I wanted to have it finished by the time they got here. This was when FedEx stepped up to the plate. The roof panel shipped late last week, and FedEx proceeded to give it a grand tour of the state of North Carolina. It went from Charlotte to Kernersville, stayed there for a day and a half, then on to Wilmington, stayed there for a day, back to Greensboro, and it finally came to me. It never made it to Asheville, but it'll get there soon enough. I finally received it early afternoon Saturday, yesterday, and I was able to get it fitted to the rest of the bed cap. And it looked great sitting there assembled on the carport floor, and I couldn't wait to see it on the rig. I gotta tell you, I was a little worried about that part because one of the guys coming over to lend a hand isn't the tallest guy in the world. Sorry, Al. After the tent had come off, as well as the old bed rack, I was noticing that the top rim of the unladen truck bed sits about shoulder high on me, and I'm 6 feet. The Iron Man lift is definitely doing its job. Still, thanks Al for coming in clutch on getting the cap installed, and I've now got it clamped in place and the third brake light wired in, and it looks absolutely fantastic sitting on the truck. This thing is going to give us so much more storage space in the bed, and it's going to keep it dry and clean. And most importantly, it's going to keep it secure. It's going to be nice not to have to worry about our kickback rockers or fire pit walking away whenever we have to do a hotel stop on drive days of a trip. But there doesn't seem to be any way of hurrying up those crossbars. OVS plans on having them back in stock on the 19th of May, or at least that's what they're hoping for. We've been through this song and dance before. Remember that 270 awning? Yeah, I've got that sitting out in the shed, but getting that installed is going to involve me having what installed? Yeah, the crossbars. So I called up Recon Recovery and they were able to help me move over to one of the Weston brand crossbar sets. Anything that fits a standard T-track will work on this bed cap. They had the Weston ones in stock, so I said, hey, let's just go with that one and go ahead and ship it to me. We've got a trip to the beach planned for next week, and I'd really like to have the awning installed before we go down there. So, yeah, the lateral over to the Weston bars was last Tuesday, and I'm waiting for a shipping notification. I'm not sure whether there's a delay in shipping them or a delay in the shipping, updating the shipping info. Maybe it'll show up out of the blue tomorrow for all I know, but I'll give them a call tomorrow to see what's going on with those. Maybe I just need to chill out about it, but there's nothing in this world so impatient as a guy with a brand new toy and who can't install it until he gets part B. But anyway, if you've been curious about the OVS Bed Cap, it's a solid product. From the quality of the steel it's made out of to the fitment of the pieces, the assembly went flawlessly. I got exactly the right count of hardware for the build. I didn't have any missing bolts, washers, or any of that stuff, but they don't give you any extras either. So be careful opening up the bags, and you don't want to lose any because you're not getting any spares either. I'd seen some reviews where people griped about missing hardware for the assembly, so I was kind of prepared for that. And it's normally just a quick trip up to Lowe's to get what I need rather than wait for a manufacturer to get it to me. And I halfway expect to have to run out for a couple of M8 bolts or something anymore. So I was kind of pleasantly surprised when the count on every bag was dead on for this product. And they even give you the barrel connectors and vampire taps to complete the brake light wiring, which was a pleasant surprise. If you order one of these, the electrical connectors are in a bag that's taped to the outside of the carton. So, you want to be on the lookout for that and just don't toss it out with the boxes. So got it onto the truck, and thanks again, guys, and got it clamped down. The hardware for securing it down to the bed is a pretty good design and installs easily. It's a set of 6 clamps that tie into the rail system that's in the Tacoma. Can't speak for how it goes onto other models of truck, but on the Tacoma you have little side rails there, and it's a pretty easy mount down to those. OVS includes tie down points for routing and securing the brake light wiring in there, and there's just a lot of nice touches to this bed cap. They have mount points all over the inside of this thing. There are mount points for molly panels on the inside of the side door panels, and another set of mounting points that runs down the sides of the corners where the walls meet the ceiling. There's a whole row of mounting points there. There are more mounting brackets at the front of the bed and at the front top of the bed where you can mount molly panels or whatever you want to. There's just a million ways to customize one of these things out. The gas helper struts that hold open the wing doors, those are also pretty heavy duty. It takes a bit of oomph to close those back down. So, you can mount something like traction boards or your favorite shovel there and not worry about the wing doors holding open. Again, overall, I'm just delighted with this bed cap. So now that I have the bed cap on and the bed is now a dry space, the next project that I have my eye on, well, the next project I have my eye on is that 270. Come on, crossbars. Nah, the next project I have my eye on is building out a new battery box for my house battery system. I want to build out a box that's big enough to add a second 100 amp hour AGM and have that mounted to the front wall of the bed using one of those handy brackets that OVS so thoughtfully puts into their bed cap to secure it in place. I'll coat it with Rhino liner and I'll be able to pretty much hide my wiring, bus bars, fuse links, stuff like that on the inside of the box. On the driver's side of the box is where my solar charge controller will go, and on the passenger side of the box, I'll put my breaker panel. I've been running all my end connections through an automotive fuse block I got off Amazon, but I'm not wild about the quality of it. I've been looking at the Blue Sea Systems Marine 12-volt breaker panels and thinking that I want to move over to one of those. It just looks like a more solid solution. If anyone out there has any experience using one of those for an overlanding house battery install, drop me an email or a comment and let me know how that worked out for you. But I want to get pretty much everything with my house electrical system to be contained either in or on this one battery box. Now that I can access the front of the bed from the sides, I think it'll be an easy way to keep that all neat and in easy reach. I also want to run some wiring for some USB-C panels up in the tent. And I'm looking at my options for that, from getting the wiring out through the bed cap and up through the floor of the tent in a way that still leaves the tent removable as needed. An Anderson plug seems to be the most obvious way to accomplish this, but without the tent mounted, What do I have a couple of 12-volt wires with Anderson plugs flopping around on top of the bed cap? I don't know. That design facet is still percolating. Again, if anybody's done something like that before, or if you have any suggestions, hey, let me know. I know I want to be able to put some lights up inside the rooftop tent and charge phones at night without having to lug the Jackery up there with us. So I got to figure something out. The one other thing that I want to add to the battery box will be a couple of capped studs that kind of wire straight into the house battery through a fuse link so that I can hook up the diesel heater really easily. And those will go right beside the breaker panel on the outside of the battery box. And it'll be super easy to get to. Again, I'm trying to set up everything on this Tacoma where everything you need is right where you need it to be, and everything stays neat while you're using it. So, that's the rundown of the house electrical system changes I want to make. When are we going to get out and use all this new stuff? Well, next week is going to be the beach, and any camping is going to happen after. I don't mean to keep bringing it up after the crossbars get here and I get the tent mounted back up. But I've been taking a deeper look at that new route, the Southeastern Backcountry Discovery Route, and I'm thinking that may end up being our next trip, at least the first several sections of it. It starts or ends, depending on which way you run it, in Damascus, Virginia, which is just a cool town to visit, especially this time of year. The Appalachian Trail runs right through Damascus, and it's a popular stop off and resupply point for people doing the trail. It's late enough in the season that there are going to be northbound hikers hitting that point in pretty good numbers, and you meet some really interesting people in these trail stop off towns. The route plunges down from Damascus and runs through some of, at least in my book, my favorite parts of the Blue Ridge Mountains as it skips back and forth across the North Carolina Tennessee line. You get to see the Edgemont area. That boasts a couple of the coolest country's general stores you'll find anywhere in the mountains. There's a bunch of waterfalls in the Lost Cove area, as well as little and big Lost Cove cliffs. There's just so much to see in the Lost Cove area. I was one of my favorite places to go when I was in college. I camped down there all the time and ran all over that place. You also get down, it goes from there down to Roan Mountain as the route works its way down to the Cherokee National Forest and down towards Bryson City. And it may still be a tad early in the year for the rhododendron bloom, but it'd be a really nice drive anyway, with plenty of camping opportunities and a ton of interesting places to visit along the way. I do still want to hit the Peddler River area in Virginia that I talked about on an earlier episode, but that trip is really the best when Enchanted Creek is open. So I don't know. There's so much I want to do this summer, but I may save that one for later in the year. I also wanted to talk for a little bit about the quote, state of the podcast, if you will. I've kicked around a bunch of ideas, everything from whether I want to do a video format for it. My biggest download numbers come from YouTube, which, while it wouldn't be my first choice for finding audio content, I suppose it shouldn't come as a surprise due to it having such a mammoth user base. I do want to do some video on my YouTube channel, but I think I want to keep that separate from the podcast and keep the podcast audio only. Mostly because I think they're really two separate mediums when you get down to it. The podcast, at least the way I use them, is something that I download for listening on the drives to and from work. I happen to have a 17-minute commute, so take a wild guess as to why my pods always seem to work out to somewhere between 15 and 20 minutes in length. Anyway, there'll be plenty of opportunities to see my smiling mug on the videos I post, but not sure I want to add the extra bandwidth to my weekly offerings. The audio podcast just works for me, and it'll keep the pressure off of me to edit videos that I have to crank out every week, at least until I get a lot more proficient at editing video. That has been an interesting journey. I'm just now finishing up on my studies for the Part 107 drone pilot's license too, so I'll be able to put up my drone to catch the aerial footage that seems to be pretty much obligatory in overlanding videos these days. and do it without having to worry about getting the crap fined out of me if I get too many views on the YouTubes. I've had a drone for a while now and I know how to fly it and I love flying it, but yeah, I don't want to get myself into hot water with the authorities putting that stuff out on the webs. So plan on the podcast continuing to be an audio experience and feel free to listen to it on your morning jog, drive to work, or wherever you listen to this app. Hey, while I'm talking about listening to my podcast, you know what's a great way to listen to it? Hey, by subscribing to it. You don't have to go out looking for it then, it just shows up every time I drop a new episode. Subscribers are a wonderful thing, and I thank each and every one of you who have already subscribed. Y'all make giving up a part of my Sunday worth it. So join those folks and give it a like and subscribe. I'll try to make it worth your while with the content. Speaking of dropping episodes, I'm not sure yet that there's going to be one next Monday. We're headed down to our beach vacation week, and I'm absolutely certain I'm not going to be dragging all this stuff down there with me. I do have a lapel mic that I use for video, and it gives pretty decent sound quality, but yeah, we'll see. There's going to be a crowd descending on the house we have rented, and I may or may not have a quiet spot to retreat to do one of these things. Maybe I'll just head out to the beach and let y'all listen to the sound of the surf crashing in the background while I talk about overlanding. That'd be cruel, wouldn't it? Anyway, there may or may not be an episode next Monday, but never fear, I've not given up on the Dirt Road Tourist, or maybe that's something to fear. I don't know. Just know it's alive and kicking and will continue for the foreseeable future, so just go ahead and mash that subscribe button already. That, at least for this week, is going to be all the news from Lake Wobegon. Hey, if you know, you know. You're all caught up with the events happening in my life, at least all of the events that have anything to do with overlanding. No need to drag you through the other stuff. I hope you have a wonderful last few days of April and a beautiful first days of May. No storms or trees across the trail, and all the tornadoes can go packing as far as I'm concerned. Hopefully, you've got some great trips of your own planned, well, while the weather is this nice. As always, I hope you have a great and safe travels this week. Have a great week, and go see something amazing.